Nope.
Hello from the dark side.
No. Oh, God! Please, God, no! No! No!
Welcome once again to Finite Unlimited. We've taken you away from regular programming to once again join us for a podcast. I am the narrator.
I am the editor.
And we are some of Finite Unlimited. How many of us are actually? Several? Like about 7 of us. Anyway, the Finite Unlimited is really just our brain trust. We are the faces that speak for a ton of other people who also clue their thoughts in with ours. So, hopefully, we actually know something. At least we like to think so.
Collective knowledge.
Anyway, we just... it's only been a couple of days since episode 6 came out, and it was such a massive episode. Like, I was surprised at how much episode 5 had the near end of it, and then we were just blindsided with all this stuff in episode 6. I suppose we had more than enough hints about it. But, yeah, so a lot to get through. A lot of tears, a lot of angst, a lot of thinking. So let's get to it. Alright, first of all, the episode begins with Pyrrha already in Ozpin's office. So, yes, Ozpin was talking about Pyrrha. Can we get off that it sounded like he was talking about RWBY? Okay? I mean, yeah, we all thought it was RWBY as well, but it's quite clearly Pyrrha. At least it seems that way. Now, in our last podcast, we said that we also believe, like some other theorists, that the person we thought was Pyrrha in the elevator was actually Neo using her illusion semblance. But there's one problem with that. If that was Neo, she does a blinking good, convincing job playing Pyrrha. And in order to do that, she'd have to be an exceptionally gifted person. But based on the fact that Coco thought she saw Yatsuhashi in a previous episode, it's really hard to tell. So for the basis of this video, we're going to presume that both possibilities are possible. So we're going to approach it with both in mind. Anyway, so she's having this talk with Ozpin, and she's told, typical Pyrrha being humble and going, oh, I couldn't have gotten this far without my team. And Crow, being a bit smarter than that, goes, isn't it the other way round? It's probably true. And not to underestimate Lyren and Nora, but Pyrrha is pretty good. And
If she can take on Cardinal by herself.
Team Cardinal on her own. And if Team Cardinal can get to doubles round in a tournament, they aren't exactly pushovers. It just shows how great Pyrrha is. Anyway, she's a bit taken aback by this and goes, oh, well, who the heck are you? And he goes, oh, I'm Crow. And...
Slender.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. That's not happened yet.
Okay.
But, she turns back to Ozpin and goes, why am I here? And Ozpin's being a bit cryptic at this point, sort of just going like, take a seat. What is your favourite fairy tale? Now, every job interview, I'll have you know, starts with that question. So think very carefully. We thought that the fairy tale that Ozpin was going to bring up was going to be referring to the man with 2 souls. We admit, maybe we were a bit biased in that area. We kind of wanted it to help prove our theory, but it didn't happen to work out that way. And we heard, for the first time, a fairy tale that hadn't been mentioned at all previously. The fairy tale of the 4 maidens, the 4 seasons. I just put all 5 fingers up there. The 5 maidens, we don't know about the 5th one yet. Let's not go there. Yeah. Anyway, this is the first time we heard about it. It's a tale of these 4 maidens who visit this old man who's a bit recluse and all that, and they each sort of help him out in their own special way that's in some ways mimic the seasons or sort of traits of the seasons that we ascribe to them. Anyway, at the end of this old man, this quintessential old man, gives them unimaginable power.
Unimaginable power!
Yes, because, yeah, that's just how that works. Not dissing the writers or anything. It just... I suppose, like, fairy tales, you just go, oh, well, of course it sounds a bit ridiculous, but when they tell you it's for real, you go, whoa. As Pyrrha did. And, you know, and then Osmond goes into the whole thing, like, we think you're the next Fall Maiden. To which she goes, we? And then Ironwood and Glinda have perfect timing.
Yeah,
And they
that was,
show
that
up.
was like, sorry we're late. That was so timed perfectly. That was such a play.
And then, it's the part, like, as the editor pointed out to me, is that Pyrrha got very vulnerable in this moment. She was, perhaps, in the first time in her life, really confused apart from Jean. About, like, she was confused about something apart from Jean, yeah. And she goes, who are you people? Now, I don't know if you noticed this the first time you watched through it, but I hope you go back and watch it again. Listen to Glinda's response to that, like, you know who we are. It's like the voice director said to the voice actor for Glinda, like, can you make Glinda sound as creepy as possible in that, and then make it sound normal?
Yeah.
Just to maybe throw a hint out. I don't know. But anyway, it just didn't seem right. And then the uncomfortable elevator ride down. Not even elevator music to make it easier.
I know, right?
It's
I've actually seen a few memes with that
oh
scene.
yeah. Oh, I mean, there's a couple YouTube, YouTube RWBY cracks or whatever videos,
cracks,
out there.
Yep.
So that's put that in or whatever. Anyway, in one of our previous videos, someone asked us whether we thought this volume would be the volume where
Hits the fan.
yes. Or my more convoluted way of saying it, excrement hitting the ceiling air conditioning unit. We're finally getting there. Like, we always knew there was a darker side to RWBY, and we finally got there. And it all happened in this vault underneath Beacon. Like, that was a very dark and foreboding place.
Oh, but beautiful though. It's very beautiful.
Brilliant art and everything like that. Although, clearly there's more to the vault than just housing one semi-dead maiden.
Many secrets hidden there.
Must be. And then we get to the part where we're talking about how maidens apparently pass on their power. Here's the first thing we picked up, is that the Brotherhood doesn't seem to understand entirely how it works.
Yeah.
Like, clearly the Brotherhood was formed later after, like, they said the maidens were public knowledge in the past. Clearly the Brotherhood was formed later on to help them out. Except, they're still not entirely clear about how it works. Maybe even the maidens are not entirely clear about how it works either.
It seems like trial and error. It's just like by case studying every decision that the magic made.
Yeah, that's right. And, well, we'll get to magic in a minute as well. But
also, I had another thought. That Beacon was thought to be recently created, but this great vault that was on Beacon seems to house many secrets. It's a vault, right? But was Beacon before the Vault, or was Vault before the Beacon?
You make an interesting point, because Huntsmen and Huntresses only came about after the Great War. And this Brotherhood has been in action ever since they started hiding the existence of the Maidens.
There was no Beacon Academy.
Unless the Maidens were only made secret after the end of the Great War. But the ramifications of that we haven't quite thought about yet, because he only just brought this up.
You probably could see it in the recording when I came into a great understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can actually see people.
There could be ramifications about that. We are intending to talk about the Great War in future videos, so we might get back to that thought. I mean, that's just one of many thoughts we've had so far. But first of all, this idea of passing on the Maiden's powers is a little more convoluted than they realized at first. This is Glinda's words, like, it was more intimate. And you can see from Pyrrha's reaction that she had perhaps a different idea of what intimate meant. Although I had the same worry, and like, what? What could this possibly entail? But then it's just all about, like, the last person you think about before you die, which is a bit random.
Yeah, you wouldn't say that like that, such a loaded question like that.
It's a bit dangerous, too, like, to think that the last person you... Like, if you knew that the last person you thought about would get the power, wouldn't your mind almost, like, dare to think about someone else just before you passed away? It's like endless possibilities. It's really screwy. But as Crow says, like, one, old women can't get it, and men can't get it. Like, as these old crones or whatever.
Yeah,
so, for some reason, old women can't get the power. Anyway, as we approach, the Fall Maiden as she currently is, Amber, who is currently being, kept alive thanks to Atlas technology. Good old Atlas. Defying life's limits.
Define the sanctity of life itself.
Well, we get to that in a second as well. So we know that, like, I want to say this, we were right. So this gives us hope that our major theory about Lord Grimm might actually prove true. If you watched our last podcast, stop getting distracted. If you watched our last podcast, we made the call that one, the Guardian that they were referring to, the Guardian that they were choosing, Pyrrha, was actually now only being chosen to replace their former Guardian, who we were correct in saying was Autumn.
And also that her power was stolen.
Yeah, we said
dead.
semblance, but basically our statement that, you know, her power was stolen, semblance, power, whatever, we didn't know about magic then, sort of thing. We were right. We were right that Cinder had indeed stolen her power and that this had caused her to fall into some sort of weird condition that they had never faced before. Because, as Crow said, this is the first time in history where a maiden's power has been stolen. So, new arenas to sort of fight in and new things that they have to deal with, because as they say, like in the past, evil people have targeted the maidens to steal their power, and it's inferred that evil people in the past have succeeded. But this is the first time where an evil person has targeted a maiden and actually only stole a portion of their power. That seems a bit weird. But it also, like, one of the big questions we asked is, we know that Amber's there, who's the Fall Maiden. Where are the three other maidens? They infer that it's not the first time also where a Fall Maiden has died and a random person has gotten the powers, meaning that this Brotherhood has probably been trying for ages to actually hunt down where the power is. It could actually elude them for generations, for all we know, because if it passed down to one person, they have to spend a lifetime to hunt for that other person, and then that person might die and then it might go to someone else.
And that person may not even know they have this power.
Absolutely. But here's one other thing we ought to bring up as well. Each maiden is named after a season. Summer and winter will no doubt jump out at you because we know two characters in the RWBY world named this. Summer Rose and Winter Schnee. First of all, we don't think this necessarily means that Summer was the Summer Maiden or that Winter Schnee is the Winter Maiden. It seems a bit screwy to name your daughter or whoever after a season to make them a clear target for anyone who does know about the maiden.
Also, her name was Amber, not Autumn.
Absolutely. So, I don't think we can jump to conclusions. It could be just coincidence. Or a number of other things, but we can't really prove anything at this point beyond speculation.
Her name, Summer, or Winter, could be just in reference to this fairy tale.
Yeah, it could be. As Pyrrha said, her mother loves that fairy tale. And she's going to love it a lot more very soon. Or not.
Depending.
Dead serious. Dead serious time here, because not only were we right about that whole stealing of the power thing, now they need Pyrrha to take the role of the Fall Maiden. And Pyrrha, eventually comes to terms with it, going, oh yeah, I will be your Fall Maiden. And then then Ozpin and the rest of them are sort of like, And then Pyrrha's like, what? Isn't that what you want? And I want you to look at that scene again, because, I don't know, I got a little suspicious here. The sort of wry smile she had as she finished that sentence, like, isn't that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Well, she didn't say it that way, but it looked that way. For those of us who might still hold to the crackpot theory that the Pyrrha we saw there was actually Neo, that might be your hint.
And also, all the questions she asked were lead-on questions. Every question was to get more information.
You'll notice that every question she asked was open-ended.
Yeah.
Such as, one of the questions she asked about Autumn was, well, if she dies, won't the power go on to the next host? That's a bizarrely open question, like, based on what she's heard already, wouldn't she first of all ask, well, do we know who the power will go to if she dies? Like, but the problem with that is that it's a lot more of a closed question, meaning that she can only get a sort of yes-no answer. But if she leaves it that way, it allows those who answer her the freedom to answer with as much detail as they like. So if it is Neo, she's definitely interrogating for information in a way that doesn't sound like she is. So, And if Neo's being sent there on Cinder's behalf, it could be because Cinder needs additional information to know what to do next. So she needs to know how much the Brotherhood knows. That's if you believe Neo is indeed the person we see there. Or it could be Pyrrha.
Could we just be Pyrrha being vulnerable?
It could be Pyrrha just not entirely thinking it through. But then comes the hard part. The sort of question that, like, Ozpin responds like, it's not that easy, because we don't know what happens if Amber dies. It might, because, as Ironwood says, it's not abnormal for those who've been murdered to think of their murderer just before they die. But the way he said it also made it sound like Maidens in the past had been killed for their power, and their power had been passed to their killer as a result. So this has happened in the past, except they've never, again, faced a split power sort of thing happen. But I do want to point out, why didn't Cinder kill Amber outright? She had to have learnt a technique to steal part of her power, so it means that she intentionally left Amber alive. We'll get back to that in a second, but I want you to think about that for just a second. And then the Brotherhood points out that Atlas, the front of innovation and technology for so long, has found a way to probably remedy this situation. All we need you to do is, take her life in a way, or receive her life.
Her essence, basically, her soul.
Yeah. We don't know what will happen when that happens. It could be that her, Amber's soul will coexist alongside Pyrrha's, or they'll merge, or something like that. As Ozpin says, we don't know what will happen to Pyrrha afterwards. We don't know if she'll change, we don't know if it will work. And yet Pyrrha seems pretty much on board with this. But I think, as Jake of the One Man Band pointed out, this might actually show how they made Penny. It might actually prove that Penny used to be a real person before she is what she is now. She could have been the soul of a dying person and just put in another body, an empty one. So that may be how Atlas did it. And as Pyrrha says, it's wrong. Well, Atlas is never too worried about that. But that's Atlas for you. But in this case, it might save them. Or not. Because here's the thing. Why is the power always have to be in the hands of a young maiden? Young maiden, again, as we said in the previous podcast, a young girl. Why always a young girl? Is there a reason why it can never pass on? We don't even know if a maiden can grow old. And once again, magic? Is it really magic? And according to some people, magic is just science that science hasn't explained yet, or things like that. Anyway, magic is something that's currently unexplained. And some people said Monty hated magic or whatever, but we had a thought. Maybe the reason why the power never goes to older individuals, older women, is because the power is actually a curse as well. Now, a lot of us who actually know a bit about fairy tales, when we hear them as children, they're often idealistic. They're often very nice, even if they've got a little challenge in them or whatever.
Basically Disney-fied.
The Disney-fied, yeah. But if you are a mature person of age, if you're an adult or anything, and you're willing to risk it, go read the original fairy tales for yourselves, because they are actually horrible. The tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty is perhaps one of the worser ones, I think. These fairy tales are not as good as they seem to be. And Ozpin himself claimed to be a boy when he first heard it. So, for those of you who think Ozpin's the old man, he ain't. He was a boy when he heard it too. But the thing is, because we know that the Brotherhood doesn't know entirely everything about how maidens work, or perhaps even entirely about their origin, there may be more bad stuff attached to the maidens than we first thought. And maybe the real reason why the maiden's power works is because, and this is going to be a spoiler from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or Full Metal Alchemist, if you haven't watched it, or you are about to watch it or whatever, and you're worried about this, I'd tune out now for the second. It's a little like the Philosopher's Stone. The tale of the Philosopher's Stone says that it can give you a lot of power and can do the impossible sort of thing. But they never told you the cost. In Full Metal Alchemist, people had to die and their souls had to be sacrificed in order to do that. What if the Maidens' powers actually draws upon their life energy? Maybe Maidens have that sort of weird thing like in Dragon Age where the Grey Wardens joining is not necessarily as easy as you first thought. It might be why they die so early. It might be why Cinder only took half the power. Because if there's a part of the Maiden's power that drains their life energy and another part that grants the power, then maybe Cinder did intentionally let Amber live so that while Cinder used her power, Amber was the one paying the price. Maybe that's the dark side of this fairy tale, is that Cinder is intentionally siphoning Amber's power. And this might mean, and you might have cottoned onto it, if Pyrrha gets Amber's aura, then Pyrrha might accidentally become another living sacrifice and another well of life energy for Cinder to drain. And she might die because of it. And Cinder... Now, this has massive ramifications. If this system works, and only half of that cursed side of the power is passed down through a generation of other cursed maidens, then Cinder might live eternally. And as we said in our original theory video, we believe that Cinder is trying to fight a god. What better way to do it?
To become immortal.
Than to become immortal, to use other people's life energy to achieve almost impossible lengths of power, and with all that dust and all that, it's really possible. Like, I'm starting to get an appreciation of how smart Cinder is. Like, she's a flipping genius, and she clearly has access to information that most people don't. Like, this couldn't have been possible without that. And we've been thinking about what Cinder's backstory could have been. It could have been a couple of different things. Like, she could have been a friend or even a daughter of a previous maiden, and when her mother or friend or whatever died, she expected to get the power, but she didn't. And, you know, she felt betrayed by that, and maybe that's why she seeks the power. But we don't particularly like the idea that Cinder is just, like, in for this for selfish reasons. We sort of like her as the, you know, the anti-villain. You know, the villain with heroic aspirations and ambitions. Even though people have to die for her objectives, she is very close to doing it without having to sacrifice much. And she, you know, like, as far as fighting gods go, she's giving Lord Grimm a pretty good run for his money. So, you know, if Cinder did send Neo in as Pyrrha to investigate what the Brotherhood knew, she did a perfect job and got a ton of Brotherhood knowledge. But I do want to say that it is clear that Ozpin is holding a lot back even from those in the Brotherhood. Like, he let in Jean and didn't tell Glinda why. And Glinda's a part of the Brotherhood. If there was a big special reason for that, you'd think he'd tell her. But maybe it's because maybe Ozpin doesn't trust the Brotherhood. Maybe there's special reasons for that. And we still believe that certain secrets about Lord Grimm and Dayrosa are known by Ozpin, but he can't tell them that. Because at the moment, if Cinder has an advantage over anything, it's knowledge. The only way to beat her with knowledge is to withhold knowledge. I think that's one of the reasons why Ozpin wasn't so forthright with Pyrrha and everything. And even the Brotherhood didn't tell her exactly all the details about what's with the other maidens or what's going on there. But this is I feel really bad for Pyrrha right now. Like, if we are right, no matter what decision she makes, Cinder's probably won.
Yeah.
Like, it might not matter what happens from here on in. Cinder might have already succeeded in her plan, and we know that she already knows about Pyrrha's semblance. She might already know a way of defeating Pyrrha. But part of me wants that the person we saw with the Brotherhood down in the vault was indeed Pyrrha, because you can bet one of the people she's going to talk to about this life-altering decision will be Jean.
Yeah.
And we might finally get an answer as to what they are. And it might not matter for long, but it might be very big. And what happens to Pyrrha might actually be the moment what causes Jean to be who he's meant to be and might actually get him to come out and be the hero he's desired to be for so long. So heart-wrenching stuff, and this is massive. We saw in the video that Lord Grimm, well, the Grimm at least, are becoming aware, and this is one of the big things of the episode that a lot of people are in tears about, and we have been sort of emotionally disabled these last couple days over. I think that's fair to say on some level.
I had to pause the video.
We were emotionally wrought to see Yang's fight with Mercury. But just before the fight, it looked like PERIL was still sort of preoccupied with what she had just heard. But Yang fighting Mercury, she kicked Mercury's ass. We thought Mercury did very well against Coco and Yatsuhashi. He got his ass royally handed to him. Whether that was intentional or not, we don't know. Some people suggested that maybe Cinder's letting Mercury fail. But regardless, this is working out for Cinder's goals. Because, as we saw, Yang defended herself against Mercury, but presumably Neo interfered, cast a massive illusion, and made the public see what they wanted them to see. Or Yang attacked Mercury for no reason, apparently.
Or it could be Cinder using magic, because basically magic is an undefined power with unlimited potential.
We don't know what it does.
Yeah, so it could, if it is true, and Cinder does have a part of her magic that she can cast illusion. She can basically do anything that anyone else can do.
Yeah, potentially. And if you watch, Cinder left just before the match. She could have gone prepared for the massive illusion or whatever. Yeah. So it's really up in the air, but either way we know that the illusion's being used for the Chaos Syndicate's purposes.
And the illusion was massive. Not only was it over the people, the arena, which was thousands of people, but also the robots and the cameras.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect illusion. It wasn't a mind-altering illusion, so it altered people's minds. It altered the actual very fabric of what they were seeing.
I think we can call that the Grimm attack is going to happen this volume, mostly because could you see the reaction of Grimm after Yang attacked Mercury and potentially broke his leg? Just booing and the anger they had was enough to get all the Grimm in the surrounding areas to pay attention. It was almost as if Lord Grimm just said, "Soon." It's imminent. It's going to happen. And despite how it looked like the Brotherhood had this sort of thing under in its sleeve sort of thing with the Maidens and main power and potentially getting PERIL to work with them, it still looks like Cinder's got everything well in hand. And who knows what's going to happen to Yang next episode. She's probably going to be arrested. And even though Ozpin knows something fishy's going on, he can't be certain that this happened as a result of Cinder's manipulation or anything like that. But maybe they'll cotton on. Maybe they'll realize that maybe there's something up with Mercury. Maybe it's really hard because you usually don't suspect the victim. You don't usually suspect the victim of foul play, but they might, Ozpin and the others, might be suspicious enough to check out his team, and they might actually start thinking, is Cinder the one we are looking for? Who knows?
Well, it's not Cinder, whoever she's covering as.
Well, yeah, who knows? Who knows what name she's operating under or whatever is going on, or it doesn't seem likely that they know her from some past or anything like that. But who knows what's going to go on from here, because this has just blown our minds.
Yeah.
And there are so many big questions. Now, I do want to admit, when we first watched this, we panicked. We thought that our theory was being ripped apart in front of our eyes. At least I did. I panicked when he didn't say the fairy tale that I thought about, and then he revealed all these things about supernatural maidens, and I was like, oh no. But the truth is, the Maidens thing doesn't disprove anything. It doesn't disprove anything about our theory. In fact, it raises more questions. We want to take up a little fight with Jake Monman Band on this. He said that this episode brings more answers than it does questions. For us, it brings a ton of questions.
Well, he doesn't answer any.
One, who's the old man? He might not even be an old man. That could be another fake part of the fairy tale. It could have been something else entirely.
Just because the the maidens are real doesn't mean the fairy tale is accurate.
As Crow says, even the craziest fairy tales have a basis somewhere. It doesn't mean the craziest details, like the craziest fairy tales, are right in every aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, some things are right, some things are wrong, and I don't think it's too far to say it's the same here. That this fairy tale must be divergent in some way. So the old man may not be an old man as we understand it, and maybe not all the aspects of the story are exactly the same. They probably have, in principle, the same, like the Winter Maiden taught this something or other. But how do you have the power? Where'd the power even come from?
Yeah.
We still think that our theory about, this all coming from the great fight between Lord Grimm and De Rosa is still true. We can't iron out the details because we aren't given enough. But we could still say, like, this power that's been given to the maidens might originate from the goddess. Like, it could be aspects of her power. It may even be the 4 different fragments of her soul. We don't know. We can't say definitively. So we can't say whether the RWBY actually does possess the goddess's soul, or whether she doesn't, or whether she only possesses a fragment of it. We can't say.
Because if you say it's an old man, then it's a magic old man. Where did the old man get his magic from?
How do you get it?
It's like it's a chicken egg scenario.
Yeah, and maybe the reason why he gave it to them was because he realized he couldn't use it. Because, as we know, the maiden's power can only work on young maidens. And if our theory on the goddess being, represented in the image of a young woman, maybe there's a reason behind that, and maybe that's why the maidens have to be maidens, sort of thing.
Like you said, like they have to be in her image to use her power.
Yeah, potentially, it could work out that way. But I don't think the old man was Lord Grimm. It doesn't seem to make sense that Lord Grimm would give humanity that power. I think he could be partly behind the curse of it. He could have corrupted it just to screw around with humanity. I don't know.
Because why would he give the enemy power beyond imagining?
And he just wants to punish them.
Other than De Rosa's soul, these 4 maidens are the only other piece that can challenge his rule.
Exactly. And, yeah, absolutely. And once again, Cinder, if she knew that these maidens' powers came from having a fragment of De Rosa's soul, then she's definitely going on the... Like, if I asked you now, like, how would you defeat God? You'd probably be stumped. But Cinder is probably going on it on a line that is so accurate it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, it's so well planned that it seems ridiculous. She's got she's got access to a power that is on a level that should be well above, normal dust or anything like that, which we still say is De Rosa's power. This is on a whole other level. It's on a level that could possibly match Lord Grimm. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. We're going to have to see whether the lore and time will help define where this power came from. Maybe hints about the old man. Definitely not Ozpin.
No, it's not Ozpin.
It's still up in the air whether the girl who went to them with the vault was Neo or Pyrrha. Chances are it was Pyrrha. And partly I want that because I want an Arco scene.
Yeah.
And I think the fight between Penny and Pyrrha is coming up. It's probably coming up, and that's going to be potentially the end of Pyrrha and potentially the end of Penny as well. Like, you might have accused us before of perhaps putting a dark aspect or shade over what's going to happen at the end of this volume, but I think episode 6 did that for us.
Yeah.
So,
you think this is going to have a happy ending? You haven't been paying attention.
You might say this ain't Game of Thrones, but let's hope this fairy tale does. But just like all the other fairy tales, there's going to be a lot of gruesome stuff that happens in between. So we'll have to wait and see if Lord Grimm's theory is proven. But at the very least, it seems that we might have a basis in which to establish it might very well be true. And it seems to reinforce how Cinder is going about facing Lord Grimm. And the attack is coming. Grimm is coming. Can't avoid it. She's virtually won.
It approaches.
It approaches. So, thank you for watching. I don't think we have much else to say on that. It's still a lot to talk about. We still have our future videos coming out, except for the Christmas week. We're going to be taking that off, as I think you can understand. But we will be hopefully coming back with more videos, and hopefully catching up on anything that might be released on RWBY in the meantime. I believe there's a World Remnant coming out now after episode 6. It'd probably be stupid to release another RWBY video over the Christmas weekend or whatever sort of thing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens next. I largely imagine it'll probably be covering a lot of the accusations leveled against Yang and how the Brotherhood tries to deal with this. So I don't think the next episode's going to be that lore heavy, as opposed it's going to be a little more about getting back in tune with the characters and seeing what's going to happen next. But this is probably the end for their childhood. Things are going to get dead serious from here on in.
It went so fast.
They grew up so fast. Anyway. Oh boy. I don't have words for it. Anyway, stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe to us if you like it. If you like what we say, even if you don't like what we say, we advise you to comment. You might notice that we do engage with the comments in our comment sections quite a bit. So, but just a word out for those of you who write pretty long comments. We don't like to engage with the longer ones because it takes a heck of a long time to respond to a heck of a long comment, and there's a lot of stuff to cover in those. We still hope that we can approach some of those in the near future. It's hard to say, but it really depends on whether the subject content that we're going to be addressing is really going to talk about it or have relevance to it. So if you have anything to say on like Ironwood's agenda or anything like that, or Cinder or anything else we've covered in this video, or in the factions or Raven, we are going to be addressing a couple of those in the future. So feel free to comment on that in our comment section. Spread us to your friends if they're RWBY fans and they're interested in some theories. We like to think that our theory is pretty good. So we're not quite done yet. We're not abandoning this theory, and it's only going to grow from here. So, and we've been working on this for volumes. So stay with us. We're not going anywhere, and help us keep this theory boat afloat. You hate that, don't you?
I know.
You have to think of a catchphrase for something. Anyway, join us next time.
There's not going to be a next time, Blondie. My word!
Cut the cameras!
Soon, my patience with humanity will run out.